So Jim Davis on Grixis Delver. He is on your left. 0-2 in pod play. Lost a destination match against Kevin Jones earlier today as well. So has had a rough go of it this weekend with Grixis Delver. He's going to need to get a win out of this deck, and this is his last chance to do it. It's against Max McVety. One of the lesser-known players here at the Players' Championship was the Season 1 Invitational winner with Mono White Aggro. Infect is actually probably his best-known archetype, though, of all constructed formats.
Mm-hmm. And Jim did win the die roll and has a turn 1 Delver here. That's huge.
That's going to play. We get to see what he's holding on top of it. A Probe from McVety shows Probe, Electrolyze, Bolt, Serum Visions, and Steam Vents for Jim Davis. Of note, Jim actually had a Gitaxian Probe of his own. He's going ahead and holding off on it.
It doesn't really matter if you know if Max has turn 1 Glistener Elf or whatever. You don't really care about that. There's also a good chance that the Infect player has some number of these cantrips. You really care a lot more about what their hand looks like on turn 2. And if, say, Jim peels a Young Pyromancer for his draw step on the second turn, that's a great thing to start off with and then play Probe and get a token for your trouble.
Verdant Catacombs and a pass from Max. Jim, and a big play here, flips his Delver blindly off Terminate. So he turns it into a 3-2 Insectile Aberration. And with second land, Bolt, Electrolyze, Terminate, this is a great start for Jim Davis.
Yeah, Jim's hand is just excellent here. He's really doing everything you want to do shy of maybe having a counter spell. Though with this many removal spells, there's not a ton that can go wrong.
And now get to see what he's up against. On Max McVety's side, he's got Land 2, it's Inkmoth Nexus, a Blighted Agent, so those are his 2 threats, and then he has 4 pump spells. It's 2 Might of Old Crozas, a Mutagenic Growth, and a Become Immense.
And currently, the way that things line up, Jim has all of this stuff covered.
Yeah, if Max plays a creature, Jim just has removal enough to force the issue, really.
Mm-hmm.
If Max taps out for Blighted Agent, it doesn't matter whether it's Lightning Bolt or Terminate. They both work through Mutagenic Growth.
Right.
Jim drawing into Tasigur off the Probe.
And that, before too long, will help him turn up the pressure that he's applying.
Cast Serum Visions. Draw here into Polluted Delta. A land was almost certainly what he wanted to find. And scries into Land 4 and Spell Snare.
Spell Snare is going to be pretty poor here. McVety is going to be casting Blighted Agent on the following turn, most likely. Doesn't have a third land to try to protect it, and would have to 2-for-1 himself to do that. He has an Inkmoth Nexus anyway. So I'm not too interested in Spell Snare here.
Looks like, actually, Jim goes the other way. It looks like he wants the Snare and ships the land away. But swings for 2. McVety's down to 13.
What Jim can also do is play the fetch land here, and if McVety does just play the Blighted Agent, there's a chance that he doesn't.
It away.
Exactly.
That's really neat.
Yeah, if McVety just doesn't play Blighted Agent, just keep that on top.
And we'll draw spells.
Yeah, you have another removal spell for that one. That's great.
Yeah, McVety gets Breeding Pool on end step, but drops down to 12 to do so. This is not very many Delver hits away.
No.
Just he wants to get cards in the graveyard, though. Remember, Become Immense is one of McVety's pump spells.
Mm-hmm.
Draw for the turn shows a second Inkmoth for McVety.
He has a hand that wants to make more land drops. If he wants to attack with Inkmoth Nexus, previously he had to use all of his green mana to do it.
Sure.
So now he's a little more enabled with regard to actually mounting an offense.
And now he has a decision whether or not he wants to play Blighted Agent onto a board where he knows the creature is going to die. Decides yes, goes ahead and casts the 1/1.
Yeah, you got to run Jim out of these removal spells somehow, and he just does not have the mana or time to try to fight a battle on the stack.
We'll see. I think Jim probably goes for the Bolt on end step here. Yeah, sacrifices the Fluted Delta. There's no reason not to.
No. The only reason not to is if you're feeling a little greedy and you, for some reason, forget that Max has Mutagenic Growth and try to Electrolyze the Blighted Agent. But that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Gets Blood Crypt, and yeah, that's going to come into play untapped. And he's going to Lightning Bolt down the Blighted Agent. Max didn't draw a second Mutagenic Growth, so it's going to go. Jim keeps the board clean. And back to his turn. Draw another Lightning Bolt. Ugh. And this just keeps getting worse for Max.
Jim's deck
every draw seems to just be exactly what Jim needs at the time.
Yeah, his deck is just delivering. He can even cast Tasigur on this turn if he so desires. I would probably just err on the side of leaving up a couple removal spells and cycling their Electrolyze.
I like casting the 4/5. I I put big cards in my deck so that I can play them.
If you just cast Tasigur and leave up Lightning Bolt, and McVety draws second Mutagenic Growth and already has that Inkmoth Nexus, he just kills you.
Yeah, I didn't say it was right.
Sure, that's.
But
yeah.
I would die with a Tasigur in play, and I would know what happened. A swing for 3 will put McVety down to 9.
May as well pay 2 life for this land, though, because that's just what you do against Infect.
Yeah, Jim goes down to 11. No real plays. Oh, I think he's going to go. Oh, yeah. Oh, are we going to get a 4-5?
That's a very aggressive line if he goes for that.
Well, it's just not necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got the clock without doing that. He
Right.
just doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun.
Technically, casting Tasigur allows him to win on the next turn, but there's just no reason for that.
He's going to make the correct play, and he passes the turn with 3 mana up. Well played, Jim Davis.
Yeah, it's a good thing to weigh your options, but I
The options
completely
of playing awesome cards versus winning the game.
should I potentially lose the game or 100% win the game? Those it's choice. It's a choice that you have to make, and he chose to 100% win the game.
Yeah. I probably win the game on the other line.
Sure.
And I get to cast Tasigur. I get to have it all. Most of the time.
He can cast Tasigur before he bolts McVety for lethal with this line.
Well, that's just rude. I mean, I bet by playing, he's giving up no more than 10%.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be
Right.
mutagenic, right? It has to be that card.
And
exactly.
he didn't have it last turn because Max didn't save the Blighted Agent.
You wouldn't necessarily go for that.
Okay, we can't say he doesn't have it.
Right.
Well, we'll see what Max does have. He went down to 9 on the Delver hit. Jim now does have 5 points of burn in hand. Max has got to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Max knows about the Electrolyze and the Terminate.
I was talking before the match about the games where Infect just kind of has too much efficient stuff and just steals the game, but Grixis Delver is demonstrating that the deck also has some potential for quite a kind of free wins as well.
And I like this line from McVety. He plays Pendelhaven and then passes the turn. He's hoping to set up some sort of block with Inkmoth Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
End step, Jim's going to Electrolyze McVety down to 7. Draws into Thought Scour. Well, now the Tasigur costs 1. We can't afford to not play it.
Yeah, you attack with the Delver. If McVety proposes a straight trade with the Inkmoth Nexus, I assume you just take it and then cast Tasigur.
Draw for Jim is a Snapcaster Mage. That'll work too.
It's a good draw step.
Here's a swing from the Insectile Aberration. Now I can start looking at Bolt, Snap, Bolt lines.
Mm-hmm.
Will McVety take the damage? He will. Goes down to 4. Jim just has to survive this turn.
Yeah, with McVety not attempting to block in any way, definitely agree with Jim spending no mana at sorcery speed.
McVety drawing a fetch land here. Definitely can't go for that. Not when there's 3 mana up and a bolt in the yard. You can't go to 3. That's just too dangerous. Mm-hmm. So McVety, he'll make his best chance here. He's going to activate Inkmoth Nexus. He's going to go for a full 10, if possible. Yeah, he could growth become immense if nothing goes wrong here. But he knows about a Terminate.
Yeah.
He knows that Jim has Terminate. How does you can't pump spell your way through Terminate.
No. Destroys target creature.
Right.
Couldn't even regenerate it.
Okay, well maybe Jim forgets. He's gonna go for Might of Old Krosa. There's just not enough damage for Jim to respect any bluff here.
You still on 0 poison.
Right, like Jim can just say, he doesn't have to respond to this, he can just say go, and then when Max swings for a 5 poison, Jim can just say, okay.
Yep. And you can fight over it too.
Or he just has the bolt on top of it.
Because it just doesn't
matter. Because he has
matter.
everything. He'll bolt it. Max still knows about the Terminate, which he couldn't beat.
And Jim still has Snapcaster Bolt for lethal on the following turn.
Might of Old Krosa again. Okay, Jim, that's not lethal.
Mm-hmm.
That's 9 poison, but Jim has the Terminate. And yeah, that's going to be the game. Jim shows I have this. He's going to swing, snap the bolt, and game 1's going to go to Jim Davis.
All right, and for game 2, Max will be on the play here, which makes this
Yeah.
quite a bit harder, though Jim is going to get better in the sideboard games.
Let's be clear. Max is not playing poorly here. He did not have many lines available.
No, the fact that he made that attack, it gives him some non-zero chance that Jim somehow screws up casting Terminate, but that's really all he had.
So we go ahead and go to the sideboard. Jim Davis winning game 1. He's trying to stave off elimination. Going to have to, at the very least, win this match, and maybe a lot more. His sideboard, though, 1 Engineer Explosives, 1 is a Staticaster, a Counter Squall, 2 Dispel, a Magma Spray, a Rakdos Charm, a Ravenous Trap, 3 Surgical Extractions, 2 Painful Truths, and 2 Ghost Quarters.
So Izzet Staticaster and Magma Spray are both excellent. Those are for sure coming in. I like playing with 1 copy of Dispel. I don't think I go the full 2. You just need to primarily have a lot of removal spells, and these kind of back them up. So it's fine. I don't like a lot of that effect. Ghost Quarter is pretty great.
It kills Inkmoth Nexus.
For free.
All right.
When I've had this card in my sideboard, I bring it into this matchup. It's okay, but you do bring it in. I don't like Rakdos Charm. Destroy target artifact is not great. If you can only hit Inkmoth, it's kind of mopey.
If you're going for all these cheap kill spells, things like Ghost Quarters, Magma Spray, do you need Painful Truths then to restock after killing things, or do you just not have time?
If they just have Inkmoth on the battlefield, you generally can't spend 3 mana at sorcery speed.
All right, so that's going to be Jim's sideboarded plan. And we're going to get to Max's in just a second here. But 2 weeks ago, we had our Season 3 Invitational. Jacob Baugh was the champion with Aetherworks Marvel. It was a Naya Aetherworks Marvel build, which means we now debut the Jacob Baugh token. He chose the Energy Reserve token just in time for Kaladesh. This is the new token here. It's going to be available at our first open in 2016. That's the 3rd weekend of the new year. It's January 23rd. That you can get it that open weekend, or all orders from StarCgames.com beginning January 23rd of at least $5 will ship with this token. So a lot of chances to get this one, and I have to say I'm a pretty big fan.
Yeah, Jacob Baugh, big anime fan, goes with the Dragon Ball Z Spirit Bomb. This is sweet.
Congratulations to him again. Of course, Jacob Baugh competing today as well, trying to make it into tomorrow on our backup match if we get to it. So Max McVety on his side of the board, 2 copies of Spellskite, 4 Tarmogoyfs, a Viridian Corruptor, 2 Nature's Claim, 3 Ravenous Trap, a Spell Pierce, and 2 Twisted Image. Now I'm interested when looking at 4 Tarmogoyfs. I know that's something they play against Burn. Do you ever do that against fair decks, or is that just for other matchups?
I think it's gotten better as a potential sideboard strategy in this matchup because Jim's Spell Snares have lost value now that the deck doesn't play Apostle's Blessing.
Right.
So Jim's less inclined to want that card. He's probably leaving in at least 2, though. And that makes Tarmogoyf considerably weaker, though it does dodge a lot of the other removal spells. I like Spellskite a lot more. Notably absent, there is one card that's frequently in Infect sideboards. That green and 2 enchantment from New Phyrexia? I don't remember it. Pumps a creature whenever it's targeted. That one's really good against Lightning Bolt. I like that better than Spellskite, but Spellskite's still totally reasonable. Definitely an argument for Spell Pierce, certainly when he's on the play. Just fight over these removal spells in combat.
Sure.
Wild Defiance. That's the enchantment. That's the card that's missing from his sideboard.
And that's actually reasonable in this matchup. Wild Defiance, the rare from Avacyn Restored. Not in McVety's list. Some interesting developments on their group play. So Todd Stevens is also in their group, putting up a good enough record in his other match that the pod evens up pretty quickly here. The loser of this match is going to be going home. So from now, it's not just Jim Davis, it is also Max McVety. He's going to need to win these next 2 games.
High pressure match.
For Max McVety, the youngster from Ann Arbor, Michigan, 23 years old. Had the Invitational Top 8 in Season 1. Part of the team out of Ann Arbor, testing with player with Kyle Bogamus, Tyler Hill, Brian DeMars, part of that whole crew. All of them on Infect. So this is really a team deck.
Mm-hmm. I know that Kyle Bogamus, at the most recent Invitational, he was playing this Jeskai Flash kind of deck.
Okay, I guess getting Kyle Bogamus onto an Infect deck would be quite an impressive achievement. The rest of the guys play it.
I'm curious to the decision to play the deck that is not the deck that Kyle Bogamus tells you to play.
No, but a lot of, especially with a play like Tyler Hill, one of the innovators of the Infect deck, a lot of practice with the deck. And a lot of good results among the whole team with it. Right now, down a game against Grixis Delver, but certainly I would say Modern, at least among the team, is probably their most practiced format.
Mm-hmm. And they've demonstrated a range as well. I know you were playing Valakut and working with them on that for a period.
Yeah, Max had a deep day 2 run with Valakut at the Indianapolis Open earlier this year.
Hmm.
I think smartly choosing Infect this weekend. I would
certainly over Valakut.
yeah, I don't think I'd want to play Valakut in this field.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of players are playing Infect, and both these decks I don't really want to play against.
Right.
And a lot of people are playing them.
Yeah.
And then Death Shadow. It's going to be a really bad time. So Max will be on the play here for game 2. Starts off Pendelhaven into Noble Hierarch. Will be the start. We go to Jim's side. And Bolt the Bird. That'll be fine. It's not a bird, but it's close enough. Mountain, Lightning Bolt. Max will untap with 1 land.
And when the Delver player uses a Lightning Bolt on Noble Hierarch, it typically means that their hand is pretty heavy on interaction.
Max draws Basic Forest for the turn. He does have a Blighted Agent as a replacement creature, but I'm not sure that he has the blue mana source. You see, he will play one of his sideboarded Tarmogoyfs. It's a 2/3.
And this is a Tarmogoyf that can die to Lightning Bolt. You don't see that one too often.
Yeah, if Jim has another Lightning Bolt, it could happen. And this is actually kind of neat. Max's hand double Might of Old Krosa in it. We could see some regular damage getting in there.
Yeah, once you board in 4 Tarmogoyfs, it's definitely going to be the plan you're on some percentage of the time.
A pass by Jim Davis. And a real concern if you're a McVety fan, is it Staticasters in the hand for Jim?
And Jim has drawn that, though if McVety is able to maintain this Tarmogoyf, that card gets quite a lot worse.
Now McVety plays land for turn. Not actually a forest, that's Dryad Arbor. Swings for 2, Jim down to 18. But still no blue mana for Max, and just has to pass his hand. Blighted Agent, multiple Mights of Old Krosa. This is it dismembers the last one. This is not a great start once again for McVety.
Mm-hmm. And the Infect deck, it's generally just pretty light on blue sources. Looks like 9 fetch lands, 2 breeding pools, in addition to the Noble Hierarchs.
See Jim here. Cracks his fetch land on end step. That's to not deny the extra damage off the Tarmogoyf, so heads up play for Jim.
Yeah, in game 1, certainly play your Ravnica lands untapped, take 2 damage, whatever. McVety controls the 3/4 Tarmogoyf. Makes a lot more sense to put them on the battlefield tapped.
Dispel the draw for Jim Davis. Does have a 3rd land in hand. It's a copy of Ghost Quarter. He'll play the Ghost Quarter. Looks like 2 Tassigers, a Dispel, and an Is It Staticaster, all in his hand. And he'll just pass. Has to be careful of this normal damage.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, Max is not threatening anything on the Infect side of things. Max's draw, however, relevant. It is a Windswept Heath, so that is the blue mana if he needs it.
All right, that's big. And also, when Jim ends up casting that Tassiger, they'll be removing his land from the graveyard, so that keeps a point on the Tarmogoyf for the foreseeable future.
So plays Windswept Heath, and he swings with both Dryad Arbor and Tarmogoyf. Sure. Says, will Jim take 4? Jim says, yeah. Goes to 13. You got to be careful. We have seen a lot of regular damage kills from Infect. Post-combat, Max will go ahead and fetch with the Windswept Heath. It looks like he'll probably go for Breeding Pool.
And the regular damage, it does get a bit harder when you aren't playing Wild Defiance. That card does contribute to a lot of those wins. But Tarmogoyf's certainly capable of beating down without pump spells.
And now he's going to present both types of damage. Breeding Pool is the get. He'll make a copy of Blighted Agent. Pass the turn. Now, Jim has an Is It Staticaster and a Mana Leak, so we'll see what he wants to do about this Blighted Agent. Max has cleverly left up Pendelhaven, so Staticaster isn't the free roll that it might be. We'll see how it plays. Jim goes for Is It Staticaster.
Well, he gets to ping it here, force McVety to use the Pendelhaven, and then ping it again on his turn.
And that's what'll happen. Is It Staticaster will attempt to shoot the Blighted Agent. Max will have no choice but to save it with Pendelhaven. And then we'll lose it on the next turn if Jim wants.
You might even just leave up Pendelhaven to make
the
Jim...
Dryad Arbor?
Well, you make Jim respect the possibility you have Blossoming Defense.
Oh, and then Max is going to dismember the Is It Staticaster instead of saving the Blighted Agent. Okay. Max down to 13. Agent in the yard. He's protecting the Dryad Arbor.
Sure.
All right. I see what we're doing. Cool stuff.
The value of Jim's Tassigers just went up significantly, though.
Yeah, now there's not a Dismember in Max's hand?
Yeah, Tassiger is just larger than Tarmogoyf is currently.
Well, Might of Old Gross, I might have something to say about that.
Sure, the pump spells help you there. Though, Max being out to Dismember, certainly not nothing. Of course, Jim only has access to 1 blue mana, and it is unfortunately also his black mana source.
Yeah, there's some difficulty here. You see he draws Snapcaster Mage for the turn. His hand is Mana Leak, Dispel, Snapcaster Mage, 2 Tassigers. His Ghost Quarter plus Basic Mountain are not doing him any favors.
Jim might be in a position where he has to Ghost Quarter himself to win this game.
He's going to Ghost Quarter the Mountain and knock himself off red, but get double blue.
Hey, he has no red spells, right? I don't know.
He's got a Bolt in the yard. He'll pass the turn.
I mean, he certainly can't just cast Tassiger here.
I'm not saying we're wrong. I get it. I just don't like it. And Max, look at this, draws another Tarmogoyf. So, yeah, let's do some regular damage. Sure. Swings for 4. Is Jim just going to take? He didn't cast Tap Out for Tassiger. He goes down to 9. Now, he does have a Mana Leak. If Max runs the second Tarmogoyf into it, he's going to cast it. And I assume Jim has to Mana Leak.
Yeah, just letting that one resolve is bad news.
Absolutely, and he will. He'll Mana Leak away the Tarmogoyf. Says go. Jim untaps at 9. Looking to find another mana source. He finds it, and it's Blood Crypt. Ugh. It's not even effective. It's his, what? How many non-blue sources are in here? It's 2?
At this point, though, with that Blood Crypt,
That's the only one.
he's going to be more willing to Ghost Corridor away his basic mountain, or even the Blood Crypt, to find an island. So any land is quite good. Awkward.
Yeah, and it's awkward that
good.
he has to shock for it, too.
Right.
Normally you free roll that in this matchup. Jim goes to 7, but not with how Max is playing this. Not at all. Well, Jim's going to go for a blocker. Here's Tassiger the Golden Fang.
Conveniently leaving up Dispel mana.
Yep, and leaves the Lightning Bolt in his graveyard. He makes the 4/5 blocker and passes the turn. We're back to McVety. He's got 2 Mites of Old Croza in his hand. He could present lethal this turn. Jim only has he has 1 blocker and 1 Dispel worth of interaction. He's at 7. McVety could put him, he could put him to 1 through the Dispel.
You could main phase Might of Old Garosa and just see what happens.
Now, unfortunately, Might of Old Garosa isn't instant. Even when you main phase it, it feels like a sorcery, but it can still be dispelled.
Right.
Yeah, if he like Might Dryad Arbor.
So
he can force. He can force some really bad stuff. So if he mites the Tarmogoyf, it's lethal, right?
yes.
Jim counters. He mites the Tarmogoyf again. Swings. Jim's chump blocking. That's what he's gonna do. Here's Might of Old Crosa on Tarmogoyf. He doesn't have to play around Murderous Cut. There's only 1 card in Jim's graveyard.
And Jim not packing Dismember this weekend.
Right. So Jim can't let this one resolve, right? He just he's gonna have to dispel. If he lets it resolve, he's chump blocking.
Yeah. Maybe chump. He does
Maybe
have
that's fine.
He's got a backup Tassiger. I don't know. Chump blocking is not the worst line I've ever heard of. That is a problem. Ghost Quartering your own land, that gets you 2 cards in the graveyard, right?
Oh, okay. And he says sure.
Yeah.
Because Ghost Quarter's tapped for now. So now that Tarmogoyf is a 7/8. It is lethal. So if Max wants to, he could Might of Old Crosa the Dryad Arbor just for 4 damage, right? Jim, strange, but would probably worry. He could Pendlehaven it, might it, put Jim to 1.
Given that the Tarmogoyf doesn't win in combat against another Tassiger or Gurmag Angler, I like holding on to the Might of Old Crosa.
So a chump block from Jim puts himself down to 6. Max could have gone for Pendlehaven, but instead opts for Blighted Agent. That's what he uses his last 2 mana on. Jim, no answers there.
All right, switching gears.
Which
Got him down to 6. Now it's time to poison him.
I love it when Infect does this. It's great. Like, which way am I gonna get you? Jim draws a Scalding Tarn. A pretty good draw here, actually.
And he does have a Snapcaster Mage in hand.
All right, so he can snap a Bolt. Max is tapped out. So Jim does have some strong plays. And now he's counting, I guess, can he go Snapcaster, Lightning Bolt, Tasigur all at once and leave Dispel up? If you can do all of those things, that's pretty strong.
At this point, though, it looks like he should be able to manage McVety's board without having to use the Ghost Quarter on himself, in
Right.
which case you would like to hold on to that in case McVety starts drawing Inkmoth Nexus and makes that his game plan.
Scalding Tarn the play for Jim. He's got to be careful with his life points. He's at 6. Let's Tarn go. Goes to 5. No worries. This is all fine. Here's the island. And one of the big wins with how Jim has been playing this, there's a turn where Jim just passed with mana, and he managed to catch a Tarmogoyf with a mana leak. I like how Jim managed to manage that. You know, there was a Blighted Agent that Jim couldn't do anything about there, and if that turn had been another Tarmogoyf, Jim may not have a way out here.
Mm-hmm.
Real heads up on that one.
And given that Max got caught by that mana leak, you start to wonder if he might have been able to maneuver it differently. I'm not convinced that he had a better window to cast that. Something was going to get mana leaked.
Certainly Jim got the best card. Whether or not that was avoidable, I don't know.
Especially given that Jim has started to top deck relevant lands.
That's been big.
It's been, made it so Max really couldn't navigate around that mana leak after the fact.
Jim trying to battle back here. 2-2 in Legacy today. 0-2 in Modern. Hoping to just end the day on an even, sneaking into day 2. It's a place he's been before. It's a place he won from last year. Entering day 2 as the literal last seed in the tournament.
Yeah.
Floating a black mana, Jim's going to Ghost Quarter himself. That does put 5 cards in his graveyard. He can use the floating mana to cast Tasigur. And still have 4 mana up. So yeah, he can Tasigur, Snapcaster, Bolt all in one turn if he wants to.
Curious about going for second black source here. He has a handful of blue cards.
Right. He uses the floating mana to cast Tasigur, leaving Lightning Bolt in his yard.
And not only can he not double spell, but he can't activate Tasigur with the lands that he currently controls.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Passes the turn to McVety. He's got Bolt and Snapcaster. Snapcaster and Dispel both in hand. Bolt in the graveyard.
Just saying, Basic Island's a really good land.
I can get behind that. The best cantrips are blue, but Max draws another pump spell, though it's Vines of Vastwood. You know, Max does have 10 points of infect on this board as well. Between Pendelhaven, Vines, and Might, he can do the full gear change if everything were to work out.
Yeah, Jim will be dispelling something on that chain, but there's nothing that really punishes Max. Snapcaster Bolt is a problem. You just don't play into that.
Will be something like if Might of Old Krosa say if Max leads with Might of Old Krosa, like Pendelhaven, the Blighted Agent, Might of Old Krosa it. If Jim goes for Snapcaster Bolt, Max wins.
Yeah, and he'd have to tap off a Dispel to do that.
Yeah. Max going a different line. He's going to Might of Old Krosa the Tarmogoyf.
And
that's not bad.
Yeah,
this might get the Dispel anyway.
This line doesn't have vulnerability to Lightning Bolt at all, which is why I imagine you see him biasing this way.
This makes the Tarmogoyf lethal again. Jim lets it resolve. Snapcaster Mage can always chump block. Swing with all 3 from McVety. And here's Snapcaster Mage.
Jim more than happy to chump block with Snapcaster Mage on Tarmogoyf here.
Gives flashback to Lightning Bolt. Tasigur will block the Dryad Arbor.
And I like Jim
this is good.
Passing with these blocks and not casting Lightning Bolt before combat damage, just taking one poison.
Love it. This is an exchange. If Max was worried about Lightning Bolt, this is probably the worst exchange that could have happened for him. He's going to lose the Dryad Arbor and trade it for a Snapcaster Mage, and probably for his Vines as well. Max will Pendelhaven the Blighted Agent. And pass. Things trade. Jim goes to 2 poison. We'll see what he wants to try to bolt end step. I think he's going to go for the Tarmogoyf.
Tarmogoyf currently has 8 toughness, right? It only took 2 damage.
And Blighted Agent is down. You see Max with the Vines doesn't pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, he wants to be able to close the game with this Tarmogoyf.
All right. Jim's last card is Delver of Secrets. He draws for the turn. He still he still has the Dispel.
Mm-hmm.
Jim is...
Yeah, Max...
Jim's playing this... Jim is just really playing this well.
Yeah, Max has to peel to get out of that.
Here's Delver from Jim. Now has enough... I guess, no, he still doesn't have the double blue. He can't activate Tassiger just yet. Down to 5, he'll say go. Back to McVety. Lost a ton that last turn.
And he definitely is looking for some kind of second pump spell here so that he can fight through a Dispel in combat.
And there's no Distortion Strikes or something like that from Max. He's got 2, it looks like. 2 in the main. Don't know if they're still in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is he's going to swing with Tarmogoyf. Jim does have a Dispel. He may want to try to block here. Yeah, he'll put Tassiger in front of it.
And we'll see if McVety is able to present 2 pump spells here.
No, he's going to go for Vines of Astwood kicked, and Jim's got him.
Mm-hmm. I believe
gonna
Spell
Pierce.
Pierce.
Yeah, he's going to Dispel it, and the Spell Pierce in Max's hand is no good.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim just outfoxing at every turn here. You see him going down to 4, not to 2, it looks like, to cast that. Max loses the Tarmogoyf, his last card, Spell Pierce. He's out of action now, and Jim has the double blue for Tassiger.
Right. And Jim has him on a 3-turn clock here.
Sometimes what he has to watch out for is if there's a second Dryad Arbor, sometimes they can fetch for that and then like get 2 damage in on you, but Max only playing 1. Jim hits him down to 8.
He needs a threat on this turn.
Right. He plays land, says go. Max has 1 turn for a threat.
Inkmoth into Become Immense would do it.
Fetch land is not going to do it. He says go. His last card is Spell Pierce. This is going to be Jim Davis's match.
Mm-hmm. Jim even gets to activate Tassiger at long last.
I said that was never going to matter. Well, I don't know if it matters, but he's going to do it.
No, it would matter if McVety's draw was Inkmoth Nexus here, though.
Land in the yard. You can give him a Snapcaster Mage or a Dispel. That feels like the same card.
I'd give him Dispel.
Giving him Dispel no matter what.
I agree with giving him Dispel.
Untaps. He's got the instant covered. Shows Gataxian Probe. Flips the Delver into Insectile Aberration. Puts the Probe into his hand. Now gets to learn what Max's last card is. He's going to cast Probe for blue.
I recommend using mana, not paying your last 2 life.
It's legal, but it's one of the ways he can lose. Maybe the only one. And for Jim, you can see on his face, he knows that he has turned the corner, casts Gataxian Probe, sees that it's a Spell Pierce, draws the card, Steam Vents. It's not going to matter. Jim will swing for 7, put Max to 1.
And they don't get to reference deck lists in-game. It's possible that Jim is not cognizant of the number of Arbors in
so he's
McVety's
leading
deck.
back Tassiger, so he swings for 3. That makes sense. And there you go. Jim Davis, 2-0. He's going to win the match, and he stays alive. This is where Jim was last year in the tournament, needing to win 6, 7 matches in a row to become the Players' Champion. He did it. The long road has started again for Jim. He's going to win this to avoid elimination. He'll have another match coming up. He'll have to win that one as well. So he's on the board in Modern. Had a very good Legacy tournament, and now he's going to have to make it into J2. For Max